Welcome to Petpooja Tutorials Beginner Introduction session. In this session, we will cover the basics of inventory. What is inventory? Why is it used in operations? And how can you operate it in Petpooja? Let us first begin by understanding the outlet types. As you can see, a brand can have multiple outlets. There could be a head office, there could be a zone of outlets, there could be an outlet, there could be a central kitchen. Most of these things are covered in our outlet explainer video. We'll move forward to inventory as of now. So I'll be going to my F&B outlet by the name of Petpooja Tutorials demo. And then on the left hand side menu, I'll go to inventory. On the left hand side, this is the menu for the inventory. The first page that we are at right now is known as inventory dashboard. This page is essentially the bird's eye view of your entire operations. Let us first see what all things are present inside inventory. Report section essentially has all the reports which will give you an idea of the amount of goods and the goods which are moving inside your outlet. The second is purchase, all the entries in regards to your purchases or purchase returns. Consumption essentially means that when a raw material is consumed or reduced from your stock level, in how many ways can it be reduced, and all those ways need to be put in the system, which means there should be an entry for all of the consumptions that take place. Some of the entries are automatic and some of the entries are not automatic. Then we go to conversion. Conversion is essentially converting multiple raw materials into a semi-finished good and using that semi-finished good in item recipes. Raw material section is like the identity card of all the raw materials present inside your system. Item recipes are essentially recipes for the menu items that you have loaded into our software. For this step, it is necessary for you to load your entire menu into Petpooja, into menu management module, or you can contact our support team and get it uploaded there. Once the menu is uploaded, then you can form recipes for all those items in Petpooja inventory. Then there is suppliers. Suppliers are essentially all the parties with whom you purchase or sell your raw materials. Units are the units that you need to give to the system for doing the entire operations. Kilogram, packets, boxes, jars are all the example of units. Inventory approval flow is essentially a setting in which you can allow someone to approve the purchase orders generated by an outlet. With this, you can keep a close control on what is being ordered and at what cost, whether it is right or not. All these things can be taken care of here. Then there is email template setting. All the inventory operations will generate a document, and if you want to send an email of the document, that is also possible in Petpooja inventory. This setting essentially helps you to send an email and customize the layout of the email. And then the last is inventory settings. Inventory settings are all the configurations that you can do inside the inventory and slightly customize it to meet your operation demand. The basic need of inventory is to know how the raw materials are moving inside the operations and whether there are any leakages or not. Inventory is essentially used to monitor the movement of raw materials. As we know, a restaurant can have hundreds of raw materials and it is very tedious to manage all those raw materials and see how much amount is invested where. And pilferages, leakages, theft is very common when it comes to inventory. So the entire stock management becomes an important and integral part of any operations. And that stock management can happen here. All the purchase entries will essentially increase your stock volume, and all the sales entries, consumption entries will decrease your stock volume. With this, you'll be able to see how much ideal stock should be there as per the system or as per the recipe. And then you will input the closing stock, which is the physical stock at your outlet level. Now managing these two or matching these two will lead to a variance, whether it would be plus or minus. Both the cases are of concern to us, and these variances can help us solve a lot of problems. So the entire goal of inventory is to manage everything in terms of raw materials and in the end bring the variance to as low level as possible. Let us start by looking at the inventory dashboard. As you can see here, key statistics of your outlet, cost of goods sold, purchases taken place, the stock levels, everything can be found here in graphical representations. Along with that, the POs, purchase orders which are raised, the pending purchase orders, the approval pendings, everything can be seen here and you can start your operations from this place. If you like to get an in-depth explanation of the entire system, you can go to the link mentioned in the description and understand everything in depth, or you can click here and request for an inventory demo. These are the shortcuts to some of the functions mentioned here. We'll start first with creating a unit because that is the first step. So to create a unit, you just need to come here and click on add unit. Other than that, we have already created certain units for you, packets, pack, liter, cartons, etc. If you were to create a new unit, then you can do it here. Once a unit is created, then we'll go to create a raw material. So this is essentially an identity card for a raw material. You can put in the name, the categories, purchase units, consumption unit. Now here, the purchase unit could be multiple, right? So we can purchase a raw material in dishes, in pieces, in kilograms, but the consumption unit will always be one. So we'll be consuming in either grams or pieces XYZ. You can put in the prices here, the taxes can be allocated. There are different stock levels and each of the stock level has a different use into the system. You can understand about these uses by going to the raw material management video. The link will be mentioned in the description. Other than that, you can mark all the things here and then click on save changes. Once you click on save changes, it will ask you to convert the primary unit into the consumption unit. So 1 kg will be 1000 grams for us. Once done, we'll click on save unit conversion and the raw material will be created. It is this easy to start learning inventory. Once the raw material is created, then we'll create a supplier from whom we will be purchasing or selling the raw materials. Yes, some of the outlets can also sell raw materials instead of selling dishes or do both. So to ease it down, we have given you the option of sales also. So we'll be creating a supplier will get created and it will be displayed like this over here. In case any pending bills are there with the supplier, you can view them here and settle it. Once a supplier gets created, you can start dealing with them in the form of purchase or consumptions. Let us go and add a purchase entry. As you can see, I had a purchase order ready, so it was very easy for me to fetch all the details here and click on save changes. You can put in the necessary amounts and details in the purchase itself and generate a purchase. Once the purchases are generated, they will look like this. You can view them in the form of a PDF or print it out like this. And you can record the amounts paid against it or received against it here. You can email them by clicking here. Cancel it or edit it. Everything is possible in Petpooja inventory. Once you purchased all these items, the stock level will go up. Then the consumption will take place. These sales and transfer entries are for the specific raw material sales use case only. In case the dishes are being prepared and sold at your outlet level, the inventory will get auto-consumed from the item recipe. So sales here and sales there are entirely two different things. These are sales for raw materials and transfer for raw materials. Now, like purchase, we will also generate a sale entry here. You can put in the information here, select the supplier to whom you are selling, select the categories and add in the raw materials. Once you do that, all the default settings will pop up. We can click on save and create a pro forma invoice, which is a sales order, or we can click on save changes and generate a sales invoice. It is that easy. A challan can also be generated, which can be accompanied with the transporter if you want, which does not contain the amount of the goods being transported. Once done, You can email it and proceed forward. Transfer is essentially sales of raw material, but where all the outlets are mapped under one GST number. So it is possible in sister outlets or QSR brands where there is a lot of internal movements of good. Request for sales returns, all the entries can be posted there. If anything gets wasted, you can come here and register a wastage for the same, whether it is a menu item or a raw material. You can put in the necessary quantity and the purchase prices will auto-populate. You can select the reason and click on Save Changes. The wastage will be generated. The total amount for the wastage and everything will be calculated on the basis of average prices. Expired materials can be tracked here or converted into wastage here. The closing stock. As explained earlier, this is the existing stock of the inventory. Now, once the operations got over and you go and check the inventory at physical level, you found that instead of 132 kilograms, it is only 130 kilograms which is present with me right now. So I can put in all this information here, and regular checks like these can be conducted by a staff daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly as per your requirement. And these changes can be inputted into the system. Once done, the stock will get updated and the loss or the adjustment done will be displayed in the reports. Once you purchase or sell the raw materials, then comes the step of converting them into a recipe. Now the first type of recipe would be the semi-finished good recipe, where you can combine multiple things together and then create a recipe out of it. So every day a pizzeria would make pizza sauce, and pizza sauce is essentially a combination of tomatoes, herbs, some seasonings, etc. So the conversion of tomatoes and herbs and seasonings into one particular raw material is known as conversion, where you will tell the system that this much amount of these three raw materials will lead to generation of one particular unit of this raw material. And when we'll talk about generating a recipe for pizza, the pizza recipe will only contain the dough, the cheese and the pizza sauce. It will not contain the tomatoes, the herbs and the seasonings. So to simplify this recipe making, we have given the middle point of convert raw material, and it could be done here. Once the recipe is generated, every day you can come here and put in the conversions that you've done in terms of units and click here. So those raw materials will be reduced from your inventory, and this particular raw material will be increased in your inventory. Once this is set up, you can go to item recipes and add a new recipe. Click here, select your item, and all these recipes can be inputted here. The first would be selecting the raw material, its quantity, its units, the areas along with it, and the cheese, as you can see here, or the butter are the add-ons to that particular items. You can also mention the add-on recipe here. Once done, you can click on Save Changes and the recipe will be generated. You can edit them, view them like so. So we've gone through the journey of creating a unit, then creating a raw material, then creating a supplier, then doing the purchase and sales entries with the supplier, then generating a semi-finished good recipe, and then creating a recipe of the raw material. All this got finished in a few minutes. And this is how Petpooja inventory makes your life very easy when it comes to managing your operations. I understand that once or during the onboarding time, it will be very difficult for you to manage these many recipes and these many raw materials. But once that entire thing is placed into the software, your life becomes a lot easier. After all that is done, you can go to report section and check out all the movements that took place. What was the opening stock for a day and the closing stock for a day? What was the consumption of raw materials that took place as per the system? What is the current stock value that you have in your outlet, and so on. Along with all those use cases, food cost becomes a very important factor for any inventory. This food cost helps you to know what is the gross profit of your outlet, which is essentially that if I sold an item for 100 rupees and 30 rupees was my food cost, plus the utilities were 20 rupees. So the net profit that I would get is 50 rupees, which is 50%. But to ascertain these 30 rupees with different prices of different raw materials at different time periods becomes a headache. But using this software, you can just go to reports and go to food costing, where a food cost report will be ready for you to tell you what was the period and what was the prices in that particular period. In-depth explanation of these reports is given in the video playlist link given below. Come back to inventory dashboard and check all the movements and all the stock levels and all the amounts present in your inventory here. It is this easy to manage inventory for any outlet. Especially this feature is very useful when it comes to FMCG outlets or outlets who are falling under the umbrella of quick service retail. Quick service retail is a very centralized business under which all these movements need to be tracked, and the data that one obtains from this has several use cases. So this was all about Petpooja inventory beginner level. If you'd like to go deeper into all these features, video links for the same has been given down in the description. Thank you.